All right, let's talk about something big that just went down at Elon Musk's AI company xAI. We're talking about hundreds of employees being let go, seemingly out of the blue. And trust me, this is way more than just another headline. It's a huge signal for where the future of AI and maybe even our jobs is headed.
So let's start with this number, 500. That's not just a statistic, right? That's 500 people, an entire team who suddenly lost their jobs. This one move wiped out nearly a third of the team that was responsible for training the company's chatbot. And look, this wasn't your standard, run-of-the-mill corporate restructuring. It was sudden, it was impersonal, and it was all done over email. The team was working on data annotation for Grok, xAI's chatbot, and the way this was handled, as you can see from this quote, caused some serious emotional distress.
Okay, so let's dig into this sudden layoff. We need to understand the strategy behind xAI's move and what it's telling us about the entire AI industry.
This brings us to the big question: generalists versus specialists. Why on earth would a company get rid of a team that seems so fundamental to building an AI? Well, the answer reveals a major, and I mean major, strategic pivot.
To really get what's happening, you have to understand this thing called data annotation. Think of it like this. You're basically creating a textbook for an AI. You take all this raw, messy data from the world, and you label it, you organize it, so a model like Grok can actually learn from it. It's the absolute groundwork, super important stuff. And this slide, this is the pivot right here. xAI basically decided it didn't need a massive team of generalists doing that broad foundational data labeling anymore. Instead, they're now on the hunt for expert tutors. We're talking about people with deep, specialized knowledge in fields like STEM or finance, people who can give their AI a much more sophisticated PhD-level education.
So let's shift gears for a second, because behind all this corporate strategy and tech speak, there's a very real human cost. We're talking about 500 individuals who are now facing some pretty serious consequences.
And the impact goes so much deeper than just losing a paycheck. The sudden, impersonal way these layoffs happened can trigger a severe emotional toll. You're seeing things like grief, anger, and even really serious conditions like depression and insomnia. It's a huge psychological blow.
And from there, it just creates this domino effect. It starts with that immediate financial strain on a family, right? But that can easily spiral into long-term instability, which, when it happens to hundreds of families at once, starts to have real repercussions for the entire community.
Now, it's super important to understand that what happened to xAI isn't some isolated event. Not at all. It's actually a massive flare, signaling a transformation that's happening across the entire tech industry. Here's the wild paradox of it all. As AI gets smarter, it starts to automate the very tasks that were once needed to train it in the first place. And this is creating a huge skills gap, where the demand for those foundational roles is just drying up, leaving a whole segment of the workforce in a tough spot.
And this chart just lays it all out, plain and simple. The need for those generalist data roles is clearly falling. Meanwhile, the demand for specialists, the people with that deep, specific knowledge, is absolutely surging. The trend couldn't be more obvious.
So, this all leads us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? With this massive shift happening right now, under our very feet, what's the game plan? How can the workforce possibly adapt to this new reality?
Which brings us to the path forward, the future of AI work. Now, the key thing to remember here is that human jobs in AI aren't just disappearing. Let me say that again. They are not disappearing, but they are fundamentally evolving. And that means adapting is no longer optional, it's absolutely critical.
So, what does it take to be future-proof in this new world? It's all about blending human expertise with machine efficiency. Yeah, you still need to be technically skilled, but that's got to be paired with deep domain-specific knowledge. And maybe the most important skill of all? Adaptability, just a commitment to continuous learning, because the goalposts are always going to be moving.
But let's be real, this transition can't just fall on the shoulders of individual workers. It has to be a team effort. Employees need to pursue that reskilling. Companies need to step up, provide support, and implement more humane, phased transitions. And as a society, we need to advocate for policies that actually fund and encourage all this necessary retrain. Ultimately, this whole shakeup at xAI forces every single one of us to reconsider what actually provides value in our work.
As AI gets better and better at mastering complex tasks, what skills, what qualities will be left that define the work that is uniquely human? It's a big question, and definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.